Greetings, fellow man. Servus Männer. This is Red Pill Germany again, and today I want to take the questionable opportunity and comment a little bit on the recent revelations around Harvey Weinstein. That's his name, right? Harvey Weinstein. So what can we say? I mean, I've been saying that for since I have my channel, and I was thinking these things forever. I mean, if you want to know who the biggest creep is, look at the male feminists, right? They're all a bunch of creeps, all a bunch of rapey creeps, and they want to just hide in plain sight, basically. Look at the biggest polluters of the planet. It's these Green Party, Save the Planet, Al Gore kind of people, yeah? They have private jets, they have the biggest mansions, you know, they pollute the planet like maybe a whole city would do in a developing country. Yeah, but they are giving money to the Green Party, and they're environmentalists, right? So, yeah, the left is a bunch of liars, and male feminists, come on, creeps. So a lot has been said already about that, but there was one thing I haven't heard yet, and that is, yeah, I watch TV sometimes, and I recently watched the show Californication, and before 10 people in the comment section tell me again, I threw my TV away 10 years ago, I don't watch TV. Yeah, this is why I'm explaining it to you. There is a character on that show, and this is all you need to know. If you don't watch TV, if you don't know that show, that's fine. There is a character in this show that is a Hollywood producer, and he is doing much of the similar stuff that Harvey Weinstein obviously did in real life. For example, he traded favors, professional favors, for blowjobs, and he said, the character Stu in this show said, this is a normal business transaction, nothing strange about that, yeah. And he also offered a married woman $1 million if he can sleep with her, yada yada. Plus, I think they look a little bit alike, those characters. So I don't know, maybe the makers of the show Californication, they wanted to critique basically Hollywood, but I don't know, maybe it goes a little deeper. Maybe this character is supposed to be some parody of Harvey Weinstein already. Who knows? So be that as it may, in this show it's not portrayed as something that is crazy or that is morally wrong. It's just business, right? She gives you a blowjob, she gets the role, she gets the part. So that is one more indication that everyone in Hollywood knows that this culture is there. Maybe not too specifically, but I think it was Harvey Weinstein that was portrayed by this character here, Stu Beggs, in Californication. So he does these quote-unquote business transactions with young, hot wannabe stars, but he also goes on to actually try to rape a woman later in the show. So if what these women say now is true, that is precisely the spectrum on which Harvey Weinstein was operating on. So I guess society just has to decide what they want to outlaw, what is ethically correct and what is not correct, and I think women hurt themselves in the end if they scream rape now. I mean, we have to be very clear here. If you actually try to rape a woman or if you drug her, that's of course bad, but I specifically and strictly and only want to talk about these favors now. Yeah? You do this for me, I do that for you. And this is very commonplace all over the world, not just in Hollywood. It happens everywhere. Yeah? I don't like it because I don't benefit from that, but it is everywhere. For example, I experienced it in academia in the STEM fields. I'm a physicist. I know many physics departments all over the world. I worked there, I visited them for research stays and for conferences, and what I see with these young people, if you're an incapable man, you basically drop out after semester 4. Then you're out, done. If you're a capable man, you succeed. If you're a capable woman, you succeed, of course. If you're an incapable woman, you have two options. You either drop out or you trade sexual favors for getting a PhD. And I've seen that on many occasions, several times for myself, and I've heard and witnessed it indirectly in many other instances. For example, in my old group there was a rather unattractive woman who was also not too bright, so she had to work very hard and it took her a long time, but she eventually did the work herself and she got her PhD. Now there was a hot Chinese girl that came into our group, and the professor, kind of a creepy middle-aged guy, he was all over her. He always tried to spend time with her, to work on that paper with her, and that girl, she was dumb as bread. Dumb as a loaf of bread, seriously. And she couldn't write a paper in order to save her life. But that professor basically wrote these papers, three papers I think. He wrote them for her. Not with her, he wrote them for her. She could barely recite what was in the paper. He wrote it all. Yeah? So they had sex a couple of times, I know that, and they always spent time together. That was one example. I know several more. It is really commonplace. And I'm not saying all women, of course. I'm saying the incapable women have that option. If they look good. If they're ugly as hell, then they better be smart. But this is how it is. And this is like that in many fields. In many, many fields. Overall, women will shoot themselves in the foot when they close this avenue for them. If they make a fuss now, if they make a stink now, and they're well within their rights, and I think it's morally okay to do so, but in the future, women will not have the opportunity anymore then. And then they can bitch about even more discrimination, because less women will end up in higher positions, because all the not so qualified women who got there by giving blowjobs and spreading their legs will now not get there, because men will not have the opportunity to do these transactions, or they will be very, very careful. So I actually welcome that, because I was always disgusted by these professors and these women who basically committed fraud, I think, in that manner. All these women had PhDs from prestigious universities then, and they couldn't do science. They couldn't do basic science. They couldn't plan an experiment. They couldn't organize a lab. They couldn't analyze and interpret data. They couldn't do scientific writing. They were incapable all across the board, but they had fancy PhDs and a long publication list. I can still remember that one evening in Italy where the professor wanted to quote-unquote practice her presentation for the next day when she had to give a talk. Yeah, right. They were practicing, all right. So, and now towards the end, I want to generalize a little more, going away from these things. I am actually overall very, very happy that I work in a field that is actually not so competitive. I mean, it was during the course of my studies, but now that I'm finished, there are just not that many people out there who can do what I can do. So there is not this oversupply of workers or specialists in my field, and this is kind of a sweet spot. It allows for a very stress-free life, actually. I didn't have a lot of trouble getting a job basically after being done, and when I see people who study economics, for example, or who study general law, there is so much competitiveness, so much competition. I mean, when they write exams, for example, I heard that some people, they cut out pages, very important pages of books in the library, so that the other students do not have the opportunity to study that, and because grading is relative, they would pass and the others would fail then or something. All this kind of backstabbing, slimy shit, we didn't have that, and I don't have to do that. And of course, in my field now, no one has to offer any favors, no one has to know somebody, nobody has to be on good terms with this guy or that lady. It's not how it goes. I mean, when you have a very rare skill, people will hire you no matter what, and if you don't want to be the top or the best or whatever, then you can actually forget about all these things, all this networking, all this ass kissing. You don't have to do that. And what else can we learn from that concerning Hollywood here, for example, going back to where we began? I think actors just don't have important skills. I mean, as long as you have a pretty face, especially with these blockbusters. I mean, we're not talking about character acting or something. Yeah, it's just these blockbusters where you have a couple of lines and where you have to look cool. I mean, anybody who is young and hot can do these things. So in the end, it doesn't matter who gets it. And this is why they have to offer sexual favors in order to get parts, because they don't have skills that are actually relevant or rare or important or needed. Anybody can do it, and this is why there is so much competition there, and this is why getting that part and knowing that producer and being on good terms with him is so important. In my field, not so important, because once people know that I'm on the market again, I will probably be invited to an interview. And I'm not arrogant here. It's just very nice to be in a field where that is maybe hard or uncomfortable or complicated, complex, whatever, so that not many people want to do it. But if you're comfortable with that, that's the sweet spot in my opinion. I wouldn't want to compete with a bunch of immoral, ugly people to get some rare jobs. That would be horrible for me. Yeah, like 1,000 sharks in a Shark Tank and 5 jobs. Yeah, horrible, horrible. So in a sense, I'm really happy. I'm really glad about my career choice basically, and let me tell you, this kind of behavior, this kind of economics, this is what it is not only found in Hollywood, it's also found in physics and chemistry, anywhere really. And once again, of course, young men, unless there are some powerful middle-aged gay people to convince, they don't really have this opportunity, and we're not really taking part in this game at all. So I can just watch from the sidelines and tell the ladies, yeah, make up your mind what you want, but know that once you make this stink, once you make this fuss, the next generation of young girls, I mean, for the old hags, it's over anyway, but the next generation of young girls, you will maybe destroy now their career opportunities, which of course would be the best for Western civilization and our planet as a whole. So, actually, this is a good thing. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and get well into the next week. Servus, Kameraden.